I'm going to read one of quotes Carvin and Mandler included in their book in 2008. I'm not sure this is copyrighted. However, this is really heartbreaking quote. So I really like to read directly. School, if that's what they call it, even when I'm here, I'm never all there. Their work is so hard. I'm pulling my hair. My friends all do well, but I can't compare. I work really hard, but A's are so rare. They yell, scream right into my face. They are not a teacher. They are FU, King, disgrace. Not just to me, but to other students too. We all hate teacher, school. The one we hate most is they. The work is so hard. The math is so tough. Children fight each other to prove they are not weak. They fight each other. Our futures are so bleak. I wish I was happy. I wish school was great. I'm 16 years old, and they said it's too late for me to change and learn how to read. Why do I come? I will never succeed. I try my best. It's not good enough. Why do I bother? So I live in a huff. This is Carvin et al. 2008, page 9, quote they used. It really, really broke my heart. And I wondered if Anne Sullivan heard this one, what she would think. I believe this story will break her heart as well. Exactly why, so far I talked about teacher efficacy and teacher quality and then teacher's responsibility a lot. And some teachers may think it's too much. You're talking about teachers too much. And, we do our best. So in opposite reversely, we, twist that high schoolers, 16-year-old high schoolers speaking, we ask teachers, and what do you think about your job and your teaching? And I believe exactly they're gonna say changing. The high schoolers they means teachers. However, teachers they will be students. And I believe teachers may feel same. I'm not saying this is every teacher or every school district. However, especially large city schools and, these days, teaching job is not easy. That's why we have a very high attrition rate, that teachers quitting job. And we have too many helpless teachers. They could not hold their students. And teachers, their own, teacher own, cognitive, social, emotional, let's say just cognitive abilities and social emotional competence and even cognitive maturity, that is self, regulation and self-management. And then teacher preparation, like a teacher educators like me, we prepare teachers. So this is really like a cycle, and then students' weaknesses and teachers' weaknesses actually run same. It's a parallel relationships. So teacher has a very weak cognitive functions and cognitive pathways, cognitive foundations, and students have a say in cognitive functions because cognition is about the mental processing. It is about, learning, basic gear for learning. Your mental capacity, mental ability, it will let you learn quickly, easily, comfortably, right? So teacher sees, although their level is past the learning process, however, if a teacher do not have a, fully geared, and then they don't know how to deliver academic content effectively. Teacher has to digest the whole cognitive, academic content, and then they have to reproduce, delivery method wide, and they cannot do it. So they have a teacher preparation, teacher education. However, this preparation education has somehow, the student nature there, and then there because they are already adults. So we have some limitations. And then we have a teachers as an adult, young adult, let's say just teacher preparation programs. We have a young adult. We have a mostly young adult. And these young adults, how we can, provoke them and stimulate them to get their best attention in preparation. That is another part. So we have teachers, helpless teachers cannot reinforce the students with cognitive nature and home nurture effects. So it's not, good, and cannot teach academic content well and reinforce children's exceptionalities. So as I said repeatedly, modern classroom, we have students, learners with exceptionally variety of exceptionalities. So these exceptionalities, teachers should be able to embrace it and just find a way of approaching them and teach them, but many teachers feel helpless about it, and they cannot manage the learning environment to be productive and effective, students one by one, and then cannot read their students' mind. That is mind reading, right? It's absolutely needed skills for teachers and even, general human relationships. So our children, they don't have a people skills. If they don't have a people skills, pretty much it is from this mind reading. And mind reading is a social emotional cognition. So, and teachers themselves have this, they have a difficulty reading children's minds and their desperation and their desire, and they're just seeking help. So they cannot help them proactively, always aftermath, reactive, way to when they just face their student. And they cannot recognize the function of the desperate child behavioral communication. That is the biggest one. So teacher and students are in parallel relationship means, and they are interrelated, interlinked. However, I'm not saying just only students are here and then their issues and teachers are great here. I mean, both are very vulnerable. Both are very have weaknesses. However, they are educational partners. They have to work together, right? Even though, teacher is authority and child is a recipient of a teacher's education, however, they are educational partners. So any, human society, human community, we have those relationships. So desperate, frustrated teacher and student, like teachers quitting their school jobs and then students quitting school. So like that 16 years old said, there is no reason to stay in this school because every time they come to school, And then they feel like homeless people, student, child there. And then they feel like, in a small island, even their classroom is a very small, dense classroom, still emotionally they feel like they are by themselves there and nobody's recognizing their struggles and their helpless mind. So there is no point. At a young age, they just do all kinds of disruptive behaviors and off-task behaviors to kill those, boring times. But once they became teenager and puberty, and they can just a little bit control their life, and then they just quit. And teachers, it's a teacher advocacy, right? It's a lack of a teacher advocacy, and based on that, responding to poor teacher advocacy, and children shows, compensating behaviors. So teacher is a helpless teacher in efficacy, and then students become hopeless learners. Can you believe that? Teacher is a helpless teacher. Students are hopeless learners. That's, their relationship. So it is really, really heartbreaking. And I'm not sure, many teachers have a very warm mind and a warm heart in their students. However, those sweet teachers do not know how to teach children. That is the biggest matter. And they do not know, how to manage students. Not just a classroom, it's a student management. So then this, cycle, continues. So this is one, part I just really like to share how we can help these teachers and students. As a teacher educator, we have to think, and yes, like, many teachers, we have Anne Sullivan's eyes, empathetic eyes, empathetic minds. So Anne Sullivan saw Keller's inside mind, her desperation, her desire through her wild behaviors. Because Anne Sullivan believed herself as a teacher, she could see it. So she didn't see Helen Keller's, their wild behavior as a behavior. She saw it as a communication through challenging behaviors. And then she saw her smartness. So if these high schoolers are saying, if any teacher could see their behaviors, it's amazing. When I read this high schoolers quote, first my reaction was heartbreaking, just couldn't believe. However, second, I was very surprised and impressed by his, expressions, because he has a whole insight. That is amazing. Higher order cognition and higher order thinking. It's a metacognition. He saw whole school settings, and he saw what is going on. He even saw who's the antecedent, who's the consequences, and they are in between, right? So that student understood teachers are antecedent and they are antecedent both. So they are like interrelated. Between antecedent and consequences, it's like a dichotomy. It's a continuous, chained, right? And that much he could, it's not, he just complains about the school setting and what's going on. He saw detailed issues, and then he saw all, and he gave answers. So he thought, he questioned, and he answered. He just did not know how to resolve these issues because he's a minor. He's a student. He doesn't have a power. So he's leaving because I don't see the hope there. Anybody can fix this setting right now. He didn't see the hope. It's like a teachers leaving their teaching profession because they didn't see future. because no administrators have answers or solutions, resolutions. That's what teachers felt from school in their jobs. That's why they are leaving. And then students see same. So nobody could provide resolutions. And then if we work on this, we have to work on teachers in teacher education. Number one, we really have to select the teachers, invite teachers, capable teachers. It's not teaching job is not can maintain with passion, enthusiasm, affection for children. It's not. Even though you had full of passions, you don't see what you're doing, then these passions gradually dies. Enthusiasm gradually dies. Why? Because we always see our self-competence, self-efficacy. So we see self-accomplishment, achievement, so we can maintain our passion. However, we don't see that from students. And then if I don't do good, great jobs, just easily you could see how wild your students in your classroom. So that means you don't get their attention. Many teachers believe students' attention is a parent's fault. Parents don't manage their child. That's why they come and then they just disrupt the classroom. So if a teacher has those perspectives, and then there is no hope. Children behave, act differently based on who they are with, where they are. They easily adjust. It's like a same child can be an evil, can be an angel, each grade based on the teacher. Teacher encourage the child to put out their creativity and their ability, and then the child became angel and the teacher enjoys it. However, teacher really dislike that, and then they're just cut all those children's creativity, and then they believe that those are all disruptive behaviors. I'm the only one talk, and you guys just be quiet when I talk. And then those children just have a miserable year that year. So anyway, this is a really, really, I don't know, how to say this one. And this chained, this weak teacher, and this weak teacher, helpless teacher fails student, and then students have nothing to do, and then they amuse themselves from boredom, and then the teacher forced to do work, but students have no idea what it's about. And then they became defiant toward the teacher because, I don't know what to do. And they just teacher just instead of helping, keep yelling at me and scream at me and go get back to your work or get busy. And I don't know, how I can get busy because I see it, it's like in a foreign language. So those defiant behaviors, of course, is a disciplinary actions. So teacher send the child with that, to school office with a disciplinary form. So it is really heartbreaking cycles we have to work on. And again, it's the same. Child needs basic cognitive functions and cognitive, pathway foundations. So they can understand, they can receive, but when information comes, they can get that, and then they can process in their brain, and then process the information. It means it's comprehended, it goes to their long-term memory, or just out to, express their learned. So that's a basic cognitive part. So teacher needs this. And then next one is social emotional cognition. So they have a social sense, and then people skills. So they feel comfortable inside of a classroom, right? And then they act based on, according to the, social context. Right now it's a quiet time, they quiet. It's the time we can talk, we talk. right? And then those cognitive maturity is very important because the cognitive maturity is actually controlling myself. I control myself, and then I just, my emotional turmoil and my frustration and my stress, and I control myself. So those three are, basic children's, not basic, actually, these are all children need and any adult need and human beings need, right? So they come to school and then teacher has all those, teacher themselves have those, cognitive maturity and social emotional cognitions, and then metacognition or higher order thinking, so they can run the classroom with the executive functions, and they understand the, academic content very well. So I teach students do not learn. It's not students' fault. It's my fault. It's not my anything I did wrong. It's not about my behaviors. I did not presented those academic content into bite size. 20 children have first to the last 20th. These first, about 5 children of their top area, you just present whatever content that they have ability to conceptualize themselves, organize themselves, and then they can make diagrams. They can, see that those concept maps, graphic organizers. However, rest of 75% students, they are dependent on teachers, how they present. So that means teachers wholly digested those content themselves, and then they can present. So they could follow. They need a bite size. Okay, instead of giving just a big steak, and then you give a knife and fork and then eat it. And then many children without fine motor skills, they have a very hard time. Steak can flow out, or just, and then they just try to hold the 2 hands as a bite it, and then they feel pain in their teeth. So these are the, what we need. So teacher prepare the steak based on the child abilities, and then some children have a very well developed fine motor skills, and then you can make a little bit bigger size, so they can do a little, knife, and then they can eat. However, some children have a very just like, dull fine motor skills. It's a sensory based motor skills, and then teacher has to cut bite size small pieces, so they don't get stomach ache. If they get stomach ache, and then they will scream. So we just prepared all that, and then fork, and then it's not just like a little children, not the adult fork, it's just a little children's fork, so they can use those tools fluently. So that's what we need. Okay, so I just covered in the middle of my book, I'm talking about, environmental factors affecting children's school success and failure. So I see major 3 environmental factors. The biggest one is the teachers, okay? And then their classroom student management skills. So it's a teacher's part of teachers, right? And then parents' home. It's a parent's job. It's not just helping their academics. Parents' job is at home. If any children emotionally, socially fragile, and then they just keep working on their strengths, especially emotional strengths. And then they're all children's egocentric directions, views. They see, whole world more egocentric, directions. So they just gradually move the arrows to the world. So instead of a world adjust me, I adjust to the world. So I modify myself. So I can be a socially, emotionally well-blended person, well-behaving person, and well-acting person. So socially sensitive, so people reading other people's mind, and then I work accordingly, right? Because all these children have to live with other people in the community and society. So this small classroom is a practice for them with their peers and one adult. So they work there, and then students gotta be strengths. They have to, practice those strengths, social emotional strengths, and then cognitive maturity strengths. So they have to do it. Okay. So some, as I said previously, some parents try to adjust their environment instead of their child, instead of teaching their child and then make their child just strong. They just move their children around to find the right setting so their children feel comfortable and do well in that environment. So I'm not saying just every child should do that, and then there are certain cases, of course, I mean special education. However, these days, we have a certain parents with that kind of a parenting attitude, then their child will struggle outside because they have to live in this world. So that is just, parents' job. And then they provide a solid social emotional foundation. So children are always confident about, our parents always behind me, beside me, so I can sail out to the world safely. And anytime they just hit the storms and windstorms and ice storms and something, anytime that they can sail back to their parents because their parents is always there, their homeland. So they don't have any reservation about it. And then they can just sail out really just like, courageously and fight if they have to fight. And very competently, they can act outside. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here, but I know just today it seems like I just talk and this and that. However, I just wanna talk about this again. And just if any teachers listen to this and see, just evaluate themselves, and then parents listen to this, and then I really hope their parents see their child and think about what real parenting means, especially school parents, and especially the parents with the children 1-digit age, so toddlers and preschoolers, and your student, your child will go to school. So, and there are 20, 30, 40 children in a classroom with one teacher. Okay, so they have to adjust to that environment. So your life can be happy as well. So let's just keep in mind, let's try, and we cannot make a paradise. However, we can make our life much better than just hurt each other and struggle each other, skirmish each other. It's not better ground. Okay.